and welcome back to Gabbin with Jessa. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a book review on one of my most anticipated books from 2019. It was so anticipated, not just by me, but by other people as well, that I went on hold for this book at the library in August before even the book was published, released, anything like that. And by the time I was able to get a physical copy because of a Christmas gift exchange, I was still 25th in line. The book I will be reviewing today is Talking to Strangers, What We Should Know About the People That We Don't Know by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, I'm a very big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. I loved all of the books that I've read so far, and I can't wait to read more of them. And it doesn't surprise me that I was able to give this book a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. This book talks about not just how we communicate with people, but the way that we do it, or the lack thereof, and how our knowledge of not really knowing how to react to situations or communicate through can lead to a bunch of different confrontations. This starts off with a quick prologue from the Sandra Bland story. Sandra Bland was a YouTuber who was in Texas. She was moving down to a new job to be a college professor, and she was pulled over by a white cop. She is an African-American woman, and one thing led to another. She ended up being in jail. While she was in that jail cell, she actually ended up committing suicide about 3 days after she was arrested. And so that's just what the book starts off with in the prologue, and then it just runs through a history of events like this that have happened over our time. So we talk about Hitler and how Neville Chamberlain felt like Hitler was an okay guy. He kind of missed the signals or the communications between them, how Hitler was really not that good of a guy, as we've know throughout history. It talks about how there's a spy spying on the US, and it had something to do with Castro, and that was an amazing story. We also talk about Brock Turner and that situation, and how alcohol can affect our judgment and what that really means for our communication skills, and what ended up happening as a result to both Brock Turner and Emily Doe, or now Chanel Miller, as she has come out with her name since the publication of this book. It talks about the Jerry Sandusky case, which is the Penn State football coach that was accused of molesting little boys, and then the pyramid of higher ups and how they all kind of seem to hide it. It also talks about the Larry Nassar case with the USA gymnastics team and the Michigan State's women's sports teams. It talks about Sylvia Plath and what led her to commit suicide. Just so many different kinds of stories and so many different kinds of examples that you would never really think of to be in a book like this. It all kind of makes sense. For one section of it, he talks about Friends, the show Friends, and I think it was so fascinating to read how he took this one episode of Friends and was able to show us how different communications, different ways of how we see things, different facial expressions, different body language, everything like that, just from this one little scene in a Friends episode, is able to relate to all these different subjects and topics and things that have happened throughout history. It's crazy to think about because you go and you talk to people and it just doesn't really seem like there's that much to it. Everyone knows how to have a basic conversation with somebody, and it just shows us through this book that there is so much more to our communication and the way that we present ourselves and the way that we are coming off to others that goes into what a conversation is and how it should be conducted. It talks about assuming things or coupling things together, the Golden Gate Bridge is associated with suicide rates or something because everyone wants to jump, so weird coupling things like that. There's just so much, and all of this plays an important role. It points out some things that are wrong in society, and it doesn't really throw it in your face, whereas it's stuff that we basically already know. And through this book, it shows us how little steps that we can take to make sure that we are doing better for ourselves, because if we do better, maybe we'll inspire other people to do better too. That person that you're talking to could be inspired to communicate better towards another person they're talking to, and then it just becomes a chain reaction or a domino effect or whatever. And so hopefully through that we learn more about who each other is, even if our conversations aren't that long. And I think that was the main point of Malcolm Gladwell's book. It just makes sense to me. That is how he was trying to approach this, and I think this was a perfect time for it to be published with everything that we see and hear going on in the world. And so I really liked reading this book in this time. And I think it's not just good for America today, but it will be good for anyone in the future, because no matter what happens, if medicine gets better, if technology gets better, whatever, we're still going to have to communicate with people. We're still going to have to talk to them, and everyone is going to need to know how to do that. And I just hope that in the end, more people read this, and I hope that they connect with the stories. Either it's the ones that they've heard of or the ones that they haven't. Like, I wasn't really too familiar on the U.S. spy, or the spy to the U.S. from Cuba for Fidel Castro. I wasn't really sure on anything that really happened with that, but this book helped me learn more stories, and now I'm inspired more by what I can look out for, what I can do, what I can process, and everything like that. And with all the other stories I was familiar with, there's always so much more, and I really like that about this book. That's why I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I was hooked, I was intrigued, I was loving it from the start. So that is my review on Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. If you guys have read this or you're interested in anything, let me know all that down in the comments below. I'd really love to have some discussions about this book with anyone who wants to talk about it, because I would love to keep talking about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That'll really help me out. And until next time, keep on gabbing.